welcome back to my booktube channel. I'm Sierra, also known as C's Library, and this is the fourth installment from my book journaling for 2025 series. Last week we made a tracker that was a little bit more detailed and more of an overview, and this week we're going to make a more stylized one where we fill it in based off of our rating. In my first book journal, I made little rectangles to represent each book I read and colored them in based off the genre that book was. In my second book journal, I made little squares to represent each book I read, and I just colored in based off my rating for those books. In my third book journal, I made a more overview one where I included information about the author, the book title, the date I completed it, and my rating. In my 2025 book journal, I decided to include both a rating design one and a overview one with details. We already created the detailed overview one in the last video, so today we will be making the stylized by rating color tracker. I began by outlining 6 different designs I wanted to use in my spread. These designs include an open book, a simple little book thing, a book standing upright, an e-reader, a book lying flat, and a teacup. You don't have to draw at all. You can use simple boxes like in my previous journal, get a stamp to fill in later, or print out small symbols that resonate with you. I chose a handmade style for my drawings, embracing little perfections to give it a personal touch. Now let's talk about sketching your layout. I didn't record this part, so you'll have to stick with me here. After deciding on my designs, I estimated how much space it would take and how many books I plan to read throughout 2025. Based off that, I knew I needed about a spread and a half, which is 3 pages. Now you don't have to sketch out every single one that you want across the whole page. You can go in straight with a pen, but I went ahead and sketched out each little design to make sure that I spaced them properly. Next, I took a blank sheet of vellum paper, traced the sides of my journal pages, and cut it out to create an overlay for my tracker. This overlay gives your tracker a clean, layered look. Once I ensured the vellum fit perfectly, I began designing the page as I would any other. I used washi tape and decorative papers to add some flair. I labeled it as a reading tracker and created 5 colored lines to represent different rating levels for my books. I outlined the title and noted what star rating corresponds with what color. To stay organized, write down which colors match with which markers on a separate piece of paper. This way, you'll easily remember which color to use for each rating. Now comes the most time-consuming part, drawing each of my little designs in pen. While this step can feel repetitive, it can also be very therapeutic. It's a great way to relax and focus on your creativity. Once that was done, my tracker was complete. Now, whenever I read my first book of the year, I can simply fill in the corresponding icon to match my rating. This makes it easy to see how my reading progresses throughout the year. A reading tracker like this is pretty easy to maintain because it requires minimal writing, just coloring in the box. If you're just starting out with book journaling, I would highly recommend starting with this because it's not as overwhelming and it's easy to keep track of. And that wraps up my reading trackers for 2025. You can customize yours to your liking, whether you want to color it by genre like my first journal, or create a larger overview one where you can include information about the author or additional details. The possibilities are endless, so get creative and find one that matches your style. I hope you enjoyed this episode in the series. Next week, we'll talk about reading goals and creating a page that represents them. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like and subscribe. And if you feel up to it, you can share your reading trackers with me on Instagram at @cs.library. Until next time, happy reading. Overview style tracker. Made a little designs, and I filled them in according to a color that I destinated. Try again. Detonated. And that wraps up. I hope you liked this episode of the series. I hope you enjoyed this episode in the series.